Is the mayor of Toronto, Mayor Olivia Chow. Mayor, thank you so much for being with us. President Trump has been talking about all kinds of tariffs. There are reciprocal tariffs, there are the tariffs on steel that are already in place. Then there were the steep tariffs on Canada that he put a pause on for a time, at least until April 2nd, we think. How satisfied are you with that pause?
Well, it's a liberation from affordable living because, hey, a tariff on steel and aluminum means your housing cost is going to be higher. It's going to cost more to build housing in America. Energy tariff make gas more expensive. And guess what? A tariff on produce, grains makes food more expensive. So higher costs for housing, gas, groceries. I don't think that's what American wants. They don't want a senseless, hurtful trade war to your closest allies. We are friends. We have an economic partnership that is the envy of the world. We bought like $500 billion worth of U.S. good every year. This is more than China, Japan, France, UK combined. So why do you want to hurt your biggest customers that are giving you all this money every year buying American goods? So right now, Toronto, the city, we've just like really upset. We're the fourth, we are the fourth largest city in North America. And we have $79 billion budget at City Hall here. It's about the size of Florida, and we're saying we will not allow any American companies to bid on our contracts anymore. That's worth about $1 billion over 10 years. So we're hurting each other. So I think just stop this nonsense.
So you're going forward with that Buy Canadian initiative, even though President Trump hit pause on the tariffs on Canada?
Well, he didn't, because he's gone ahead with the tariff on energy, tariff on steel and aluminum and lumber. He has gone ahead with a whole host of things. And when asked whether he's going to back down, he said, nope, we're going to go ahead on April 2nd. So who knows what he's doing? Look, my brother is an American since the 70s. He lives in Seattle. He was in New York before. And this trade war makes no sense. We are value friends. We are allies. Don't hurt us. There's no reason to.
So on Bloomberg over the weekend, Canadian businessman David Rosenberg said that, quote, Canadians are braced for very tough times ahead. How much pain, given everything that's happened and all the recriminations largely flowing one way from the United States to Canada, how much pain do you think now the Canadians are willing to endure?
My parents and all our ancestors chose Canada as our country. We will defend ourselves. We're a bit polite. We say sorry a lot. We say thank you a lot of times. We say, hey, but we have universal health care. We have good education. We have the most educated workforce in the world. And Toronto is the most diverse city in the world. We are unique this way. We are a global beacon of hope. People love to come to Toronto, and we're not going to give up our way of life. We take care of each other. We have each other's back. We prefer to share. We prefer to build each other up. Rather than divide. We prefer to be empathetic and not hurt. We prefer that from being divisive and hateful. So all of these things make us Canadians, and we're not going to give it up. We are a colder country. We know how we're very resilient, we're very united, and we are strong.
Mayor Olivia Chow from Toronto.
Well, even Tesla, it turns out, doesn't like tariffs. That company, owned by President Trump's right-hand man, Elon Musk, has sent a letter to the administration warning that it could be affected by retaliatory tariffs from the escalating trade war. Tesla's value has been decimated by the markets. The Dow appears headed for its worst week in 2 years, even though right now, as you can see, it's up nearly 600 points. But as of last night, more than $5 trillion in value had been wiped from the markets in just 3 weeks. More money than the GDP of every country on earth, other than the U.S. and China. Joining me now is CNBC's Ron Insana, senior analyst and commentator. I'm trying to get my head around $5 trillion, Ron. Help us put that number into perspective when you're talking about a loss like that.
Yeah, so it's time to get our heads wrapped around that perspective, because this is a normal, at least for now, a relatively normal 10% correction after the market was up, Chris, 50% over the last 2 years. 23 and 24 were the best 2 year period, was the best 2 year period for stocks since 1997 and 1998. So we're seeing a 10% pullback, which on the one hand is considered normal. Remember that the market capitalization of the U.S. stock market is now about $55 trillion. So it's a pullback within the normal confines of market behavior. However, it also comes as a warning. We're seeing some deterioration in the stock market in small cap stocks, which are down 18%, and some of the big cap names that have been very popular of late have fallen more than 10%. So stock market's growing increasingly concerned about what it views as a rather chaotic and approach to policymaking that has no clear end game in sight. And so today's bounce, while probably just a technical bounce at the end of the week, doesn't mean much. The markets are growing increasingly concerned that the policies that are being put in place right now may not just be short-term pain. They could also, for long-term gain, it could be quite the opposite.
So what do you make of the fact that even Elon Musk's company, which essentially just got a bunch of free advertising, bringing in their cars to the White House, is raising red flags now?
Well, they're getting killed overseas. I mean, if you look at their European sales, I believe they were down 75% in February and down 60% in January. The stock's been cut in half from its all-time high. So that's a 50% decline. We'd call that, in any other set of circumstances, a crash in the stock. So if sales are falling overseas and you're about to be putting tariffs on goods coming in from overseas, expect retaliatory tariffs, or even, as you've seen in Canada, they're pulling American products off the shelves. You could see that type of backlash, which Elon Musk, both in the polls and in sales, is seeing for whichever unpopular moves he happens to be making on any given day.
Meantime, Vice President J.D. Vance was asked if he could rule out a recession last night. He didn't. Take a listen.
Well, look, I think you never can predict the future, but I think the fundamentals of the economy are actually quite strong right now, and we'll see how this unfolds.
We'll see. And that comes just a couple of days.
He just admitted that the economy is strong right now, which it has been for the last couple of years. So they didn't inherit a mess necessarily from the Biden administration, as they've claimed in prior comments. But yeah, it's hard to predict the future here, Chris. It seems that financial markets.
But is that part of the problem, Ron, that they're getting these mixed messages? Is there going to, recession, no recession, recession, no recession? We aren't getting a straight answer on what this administration thinks.
Right. And I've never seen a president or vice president come out and say, we're about to have a recession. I mean, the last time anybody did that was Jimmy Carter, and
we know how that went.
Political price for doing so.
And all this economic news, as new NBC News polling shows, Americans are not happy with President Trump's handling of the economy so far. 44% approve, while 54% disapprove. And the numbers are even worse on handling of inflation and cost of living specifically. Look at that, 42% approve and 55% disapprove. Joining us now, former Democratic Senator from Alabama, Doug Jones, and former Republican Congressman from Pennsylvania, Charlie Dent. Congressman Dent, Trump has never fared this poorly on the economy in a national NBC News poll. In fact, he's never been underwater. Of course, he's slammed polls before. He likes them when they're good. If polling reaches a critical mass, do you see him changing course at all, especially when this is supposed to be his issue?
Well, the polling numbers are certainly not very good for President Trump, specifically on the economy, for the reasons you just stated. First, we should note, too, that his numbers among independents are particularly bad. The country is hopelessly divided on a partisan basis. So a lot of Republicans, the base of the party, still supports Donald Trump. The Democrats, of course, very much oppose him. But it's these independent numbers that are really terrible for Donald Trump. And I do think he's going to need to change course. I'm not convinced that he will, because he absolutely believes these tariffs are going to somehow help grow the economy and lower prices, which really flies in the face of all the economic arguments we hear from people who understand these issues. So I think right now he's in some trouble. He needs to course correct.
Yeah, one other note that I had highlighted on my sheet, 54% of Americans say that the country's headed in the wrong direction right now. Senator Trump won the election largely because Americans weren't happy with the state of the economy under the Biden administration. Trump is now at his weakest on what has been one of his strongest issues.
Right.
How do Democrats pounce? Can they?
I think they absolutely can, but I don't think they can pounce by just simply pointing to the price of eggs today, because there's a lot of things that are going on. I think what the Democrats need to constantly do over and over is not necessarily talk about just now, but talk about all these other things that are giving Democrats and giving people in America a lot of concern. All the cuts to the jobs, all the chaos, the Ukraine situation, the Gaza situation, all of this, the entire CR. None of this is affecting household prices. None of this, nothing he is doing that is getting all in the news. The retribution, the firing of all of the folks that were part of investigations into him. That's not doing anything to help household income. It's not doing anything to help inflation. So I think that the Democrats need to every day, every time there is an issue that does not deal with what I now am saying, all politics is personal, they need to remind the American people about that and continue to do that over and over.
Canadian officials at all levels are making it clear they're going to do what it takes to stop Trump. We've already seen new regulations, new bills, new orders in council. They're effectively executive order type laws that we have in Canada, passed at various levels to clamp down on Trump, right? And clamp down on some of his allies. We've seen that, right? When you've seen the Wab Kinew, the NDP premier of Manitoba, mock Trump when he held up the bill and showed it, was like, I'm passing this new law. It's good. It's a great law. It's a brilliant, like mocking Trump, saying that we're not going to sell American alcohol in our public liquor stores, right? We're not going to do it, right? And you see now, even at the municipal level, again, the party leading this in many ways has been the New Democratic Party, the left-wing party in Canada, not the party of Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre, the party of Jagmeet Singh, but it's also not a one-party thing. This really is a team effort. I know that sounds cliche. It's like, oh, this is above partisanship. But to some degree, it's at least a little bit above partisanship. But it's also above jurisdiction. Again, this isn't like normally with trade deals, it's almost entirely a federal thing. Like the cities and the provinces don't talk about it as much because it's like the federal government of Canada making a deal with the federal government of the United States or another country, right? But this has gotten so insane that premiers, you've seen Doug Ford, conservative premiers, and progressive mayors, who is a member of the New Democratic Party, Olivia Chow, her husband used to be leader of the opposition at the federal level before he sadly passed away. Rest in peace, Jack Layton. Everyone is united, guys. Everyone is united against Trump. This isn't going the way, and anytime he passes a rule or a law, we're going to respond in kind.